Welcome to another video. In this video, we're going to work through the brand new room on TryHackMe called On-Premise IaC, or Infrastructure as Code. It is a room created by my good friend Amoeba Man about security guidance for on-prem infrastructure as code deployments. Now, I'm just going to be honest with y'all. This stuff is relatively new to me, so I kind of struggled my way through the CI/CD and build security network. You can see my series of videos on my YouTube channel where I have it in two parts. I think the first part are tasks 1 through 6, and the second part are tasks 7 through 11. And I believe this room builds on some of those concepts in DevOps or DevSecOps, and it's a guided room. Now, if you're new to the way that I work through TryHackMe rooms, I read it in its entirety for a few reasons. One, I'm working through this for the very first time, so I have not done this room at all. This is my literally first time seeing the room, and I want to learn the content as well. And when we skim it or try to just read it in our head, we miss stuff. So I'm going to read it out loud. I will be your audio reader for this room, and then we'll do the hands-on task together and see if we can stumble our way through the room. Here we go. On-prem IaC. I think this is this a subscriber only. So if you're not a THM subscriber, you'll have to live vicariously through me. But let's go ahead and dive into it. In this room, we will learn about on-prem infrastructure as code deployments. While this may seem outdated in a cloud-based world, some good reasons exist for doing on-prem instead of cloud deployments, especially in heavily regulated industries. So our prereqs: basic offensive security techniques and skills. Hopefully I have that in the intro to IaC room. Objectives: understand the reasons for on-prem IaC, understand the benefits and drawbacks of on-prem IaC. So IaC, let me define this. Infrastructure as a code is using things we can see like Vagrant and Ansible, where you have a long script that can spin up different VMs or entire environments. That's what IaC is, infrastructure as code. We'll see examples of this in a little bit. Understand and know how to use Vagrant, understand and know how to use Ansible, understand the security concerns for Ansible and Vagrant. This room contains a non-guided challenge in task 7. Oh, sweet. So we will have kind of a black box perspective in one part. You will have to use the knowledge learned in this room together with basic OffSec skills to complete the challenge. Will I be able to do it? I have no idea, but let's go ahead and start this room. Or is this a machine too? Can I start both of them? Probably not. All right, we'll let... Okay, so this, maybe we're using this machine in the room. Let's just keep going. I'm getting ahead of myself. I am ready. Why on-prem? On-prem IaC refers to using infrastructure as code to deploy systems and services on an internal network. In essence, all the infrastructure that will host the systems and services can be found locally in the organization's data center. So reasons for it. In the modern world, where we have several cloud providers, using on-prem IaC may seem counterintuitive. However, there are some cases where on-prem IaC will suit your needs much better. The biggest benefit is that it allows you much better control over your entire IaC pipeline. Let's use another popular example, GitHub versus self-hosted GitLab, as a case study. GitHub and GitLab are two popular source code management platforms, backed by the popular versioning software Git that are used by organizations. However, deciding between the two often becomes a question of control. If you self-host a solution using GitLab, you fully control the entire stack. You are ultimately not only responsible for the management of the GitLab platform, but also the underlying infrastructure. While this is a lot more work, it also allows you to lock down access significantly. For example, you could only allow access to your GitLab instance via VPN, meaning it is not exposed to the internet for everyone. Conversely, using GitHub means you are shifting some of that security responsibility. It is important to remember that GitHub is a software as a service or SaaS solution. That means that if you use GitHub, you have no control over the infrastructure hosting your source code. Instead, you are transferring the security responsibility of infrastructure management to GitHub, which becomes a third party of your org. While these organizations take security measures seriously, their security is not without flaws, which can leave your org source code exposed. This is a risk that you have to accept whenever you use a third party. Extrapolating from this case study, that's a hard word, extrapolating, you should see why some orgs still prefer on-prem IaC, especially in heavily regulated sectors such as the financial or governmental sectors. While on-prem IaC is definitely more effort, it provides an org with full control and customization of their IaC pipeline. Benefits and drawbacks. To summarize why one would use on-prem IaC and determine if it's the correct solution for your specific problem, let's look at the benefits and drawbacks. So, On-prem benefits. Allows full control of the IaC pipeline. The IaC pipeline can be fully customized for our exact needs. Data protection and regulation is easier to perform as the IaC pipeline does not host resources on third-party systems. While the initial investment cost of infrastructure is high, there are no monthly fees for hosting the IaC pipeline, and it's often easier to do small deployments. What are the drawbacks? As you are hosting your own IaC pipeline, you are fully responsible for its security and configurations. Scalability of deployments is not as flexible as cloud-based IaC, which can lead to either not having sufficient resources for the deployment or an overinvestment in resources. And 3, the initial investment for on-prem IaC is significantly higher than cloud-based IaC. Now that we understand why on-prem IaC can be used, let's dive into some of the tooling that can be used to create your very own on-prem IaC. While there are many different tools and software that can be used for this room, we will focus on Vagrant and Ansible as examples. All right, if I want more control over my pipeline, should I use on-prem? Yeah. If I want to have a flexible and easily scalable deployment, should I use on-prem? No. If I have strict data protection regulations, should I use on-prem? Yeah. All right, so far I'm doing good. Vagrant basics. In our on-prem IaC journey, we will start with Vagrant. Vagrant is a software solution that can be used for building and maintaining portable, virtual software deployment environments. In essence, Vagrant can be used to create resources from an IaC pipeline. You can think of Vagrant as the big brother of Docker. In the context of Vagrant, Docker would be seen as a provider, meaning that Vagrant could be used to not only deploy Docker instances, but also the actual servers that would host them. All right, before diving in, let's learn some terminology. Provider. A Vagrant provider is a virtualization technology that will be used to provision the IaC deployment. Vagrant can use different providers such as Docker, VirtualBox, VMware, and even AWS for cloud-based deployments. Provision. Provision is the term used to perform an action using Vagrant. This can be actions such as adding new files or running a script to configure the host created with Vagrant. Configure. Configure is used to perform configuration changes using Vagrant. This can be changed by adding a network interface to a host or changing its host name. A variable. A variable stores some value that would be used in the Vagrant deployment script. A box. This refers to the image that will be provisioned by Vagrant or the box on Hack the Box. And Vagrant file. The Vagrant file is a provisioning file that will be read and executed by Vagrant. Example. Let's take a look at a simple Vagrant provisioning script. In our example here, we have the following folder structure. Provision, we have files and script, and we have our Vagrant file, which kind of describes it. The Vagrant file has the following code. All right, Vagrant configure 2, do CFG. So we have our VM box, Ubuntu. We have our host name. We're going to set the host name to test server. And we have our provider. Oh, so it's actually setting the VirtualBox settings. GUI false, number of CPUs, and number of memory. We're configuring our IP for our private network. Is that 2 interfaces, I take it? And we're making a second server with 2 CPUs, same amount of memory. And then uploading the resources. And then running the script. All right. In this example, we're going to provision 2 servers. Both these servers will start with the base Ubuntu Bionic x64 image. Like Docker, these images will be pulled from a public image repo. We could, however, tell Vagrant where to find these images, meaning they can be pulled from a private repo of images as well, so kind of like a gold image. You can see that both servers are configured with the host name and how many CPUs and RAM each host will have. The first server will also have 2 network interfaces with static IPs attached. The second server will have a file called files.zip uploaded, and a script called script.sh will be executed on the host. If we want to provision the entire script, we would use the command vagrant up. This would provision both servers in the order specified in the Vagrant file. We could also decide to only provision one of the servers by using the server name. For example, test server could be provisioned using vagrant up server. And I actually think Overgrown Carrot, if he's over in chat still, he has some AD networks that he used Vagrant to provision. Is that, if you're still here, Overgrown Carrot, let me know if that's correct, but I think that's correct. If you want to play around with VirtualBox provision using Vagrant, look at this repo. Let's check it out. Using VirtualBox and Vagrant, this repo allows you to create your very own AD network with 2 domain controllers, server, and a workstation. Oh yeah, because you know what? This cool guy named Tyler Ramsbey. No. This cool guy named Tyler Ramsbey made a video with this other cool guy named Amoeba Man about how to do this with Vagrant. Where actually in this video, if you want to learn more about Vagrant, now I'm paying to watch ads on my own videos. Come on. There we go. This is from the old days, July 1st. What's this even look like? Look at that. That was my old setup. But yeah, I sat down with Amoeba Man. He actually walked us through this Vagrant script that he talks about here. But if you want to see the full walkthrough, just search for this video and you'll be able to find it. He's also the creator of this network. All right, we will create our very own IaC deployment script a bit later in this room. All right, what is the name of the file that Vagrant uses for provisioning? Is that Vagrant file? What command can be used to provision? What command can be used to provision only the web server host with Vagrant? Would it be Vagrant up test server? Oh, maybe it's test server 2. No, the first one would be the web server, right? Oh, Vagrant up server. Maybe I should learn how to read. We could also decide to only provision one of the servers by using the server name. For example, test server could be provisioned using Vagrant up server. There we go. Ansible basics. The next IaC tool to learn about is Ansible. Like Vagrant, Ansible is another suite of software tools that allows you to perform IaC. Ansible is open source, making it a popular choice for IaC pipelines and deployments. One main difference between Ansible and Vagrant is that Ansible performs version control on the steps executed. This means that Ansible is similar to Docker in that it will only perform updates on steps that require updates instead of requiring a full reprovision. So terminology. We have a playbook. An Ansible playbook is a YAML file with a series of steps that will be executed. We have a template. Ansible allows for creation of template files. These act as your base files like a config file with placeholders for Ansible variables, which will then be injected into at runtime to create a final file that can be deployed to the host. Using Ansible variables means that you can change the value of the variable in a single location that will then propagate through to all placeholders in your configuration. We have a role. Ansible allows for the creation of a collection of templates and instructions that are then called roles. A host that will be provisioned can then be assigned one or more of these roles, executing the entire template for the host. This allows us to reuse the role definition with a single line of configuration where you specify that the role must be provisioned on a host. And finally, a variable. A variable stores some value that we use in the Ansible deployment script. Ansible can take this a step further by having variable files where each file has different values for the same variables, and the decision is then made at runtime for which variable file will be used. An example. So the most important part is the playbook, which is the YAML file, which we can see right there. We have a playbook, roles, common, default. The task is running the templates, the variables, different roles and variables. The folder structure is also expanded for the common role, which is default. However, the same structure would apply for roles 2 to 3. Let's dive a little bit into what each of these files would do. Let's start with the playbook YAML file. So we'll configure the server. All hosts become must mean something. Roles, common, and role 3, and then our variable files. As we can see, it specifies that the common and role 3 roles should be applied for all hosts where this Ansible playbook will be executed. It will also use the var.yaml file to overwrite any default variables within the roles. This allows us to only change the default variables where needed, as the defaults will then still be applied to all other variables. Got it. To execute the common role, Ansible will load variables from default's main YAML file and overwrite these variables with any new values found in the var.yaml file. It will then read and execute the task/main YAML file. The file will look something like this. Include variables with first found. Set root password. So I mean, one thing I guess is if you could get access to this, I mean, if you could modify files like this, you could do a supply chain attack, or you could just get access to sensitive information like the root password. The first section will determine the OS distribution of the host. It will then use this info to include OS-specific provisioning steps. As we can see from our folder structure, we have a specific provisioning steps based on whether the distribution is Debian or Red Hat. The second section will set the root user's password. In the third section, we update the host and install some packages. However, we only execute the installing step matching the OS distribution. If the host is Debian, we will execute the command specified in app.yaml. If it's Red Hat, we will execute the command specified in yum.yaml. This allows our Ansible role to be OS distribution agnostic. Lastly, we'll execute the commands contained within task.1 and task2. These could be any command, such as adding files to the host or making configuration changes. There's quite a lot of information to take in. It is a lot of reading. But as you start using these tools and follow along with the scripts you'd execute to win, it makes a lot more sense. Okay, good. YN asks over on YouTube, what was your path in becoming a pen tester? All I see on Reddit is it's impossible to get into security. Love watching your vids. Well, first, if the thing on Reddit you're referring to is that blog post about how being a pen tester is like a dumpster fire or something, I made a video about that. So if you go to my YouTube channel, I made a video called Is Being a Pen Tester Actually Worth It?, where I critique that blog post and share my own experience. But I've answered that a few times in other videos. I'll speak on it real briefly. So my path to becoming a pen tester. I was hired for my first full-time IT job about 3 years ago in IT support level 1. And it took me 2 years to become a pen tester. So it's not impossible. I also live in a rural area. I live in a town of 1,000 people. There's more cows than people. But I work for a company in Seattle called Rhino Security Labs, and I'm fully remote. I work from right here in my basement. The only travel I'm required to do is I go to Las Vegas once a year for DEF CON. For that, hang out with all the other cool hacker people. But I went from IT support level 1 to an IT support manager to analyst on the blue team, and then to a pen tester. So I hop jobs a lot, if you can't tell by the 2 years of being in IT and all the different jobs I had. So that was part of my path, was hopping jobs. I also got a bachelor's degree in cybersecurity through WGU and a bunch of certs, including things like the OSCP. But I would say the reason I was able to become a pen tester in 2 years is just my grind and part of my work ethic. Like this is all I do, y'all. I work, I hang out with my kids, and I hack stuff. Some people party, some people drink. I don't do any of that. This is my drinking, is hack the planet, right? Hacking the world. So if you want to be a pen tester, I know it sounds kind of cliche, but if you put in the time, put in the effort, keep learning, keep grinding, you'll get there. I didn't think it was possible for me, but here we are. And so if I can do it, anyone can do it if you put in the work and the grind required. Text message. Oh no, it's telling me, what's my phone telling me? Thank you, YN. I appreciate the kind words. All right, combining Vagrant and Ansible. While you could stick to one IaC tool for your entire pipeline, it can often be beneficial to combine toolings. For example, Vagrant could be used for the main deployment of host, and Ansible can then be used for a host-specific configuration. That way, you only use Vagrant when you want to recreate the entire network from scratch, but can still use Ansible to make host-specific configuration changes until a full build is required. Ansible will then run locally on each host to perform these configuration changes, while Vagrant will be executed from the hypervisor itself. In order to do this, you can add the following to your Vagrant file to tell Vagrant to provision an Ansible playbook. So config VM provision, Ansible local do Ansible playbook, so then we're specifying the location of our playbook, and then Ansible become, that must mean like become alive equals true. It's also worth noting some of the differences between Vagrant and Ansible if you are looking to only stick to a single IaC solution. All right, so language, Vagrant, Ruby, Ansible, YAML. Integration with other tools. Vagrant's often used with provisioning tools like Chef, Puppet, or Ansible. And Ansible can be used standalone or integrated with other tools. Complexity. Vagrant is relatively straightforward for setting up dev environments, and Ansible is higher complexity for larger infrastructure and advanced configs. Scalability. Vagrant is more suitable for smaller scale, individual dev environments, whereas Ansible is highly scalable, suitable for managing complex, multi-tier applications. And finally, execution model. Vagrant is procedural style with sequential execution steps, whereas Ansible is declarative model describing the desired state of the system. Got it. Now that we learned about Vagrant and Ansible, let's put this knowledge to use and build our very own IaC pipeline. I mean, I'll try it. No guarantee I'll be successful. What is the name given to the file that Ansible will provision? That's runbook, right? Runbook.yaml or something? Or playbook, I mean. I think it's playbook.yaml. Nope. Okay. What is the name given to an Ansible file that will be updated through the injection of Ansible variables to create a final file during the provisioning process? Is that like the variables or templates? I think it might be templates. Which will then be injected at runtime. Yeah, template. All right, I'm right. Good job, Tyler. Good guess. Thanks, Tyler. So I gotta encourage myself as I do this. What is the name given to an Ansible collection that can be provisioned with a single configuration request? Obviously 1337. Oh, that doesn't work. All right, we'll try to find something else. I think it's roll. Yeah, okay, I'm right. Building an on-prem IaC server. All right. I need a drink. I'll make sure I'm not missing anything on LinkedIn too. Stephen Guyan said on-prem for the win. You got it. All right, now that we have learned the basics about on-prem IaC, it is time to put our knowledge to the test. Start with the machine, which I already did. Once the machine has started, you can navigate to home Ubuntu IaC directory. All of the scripts that we'll be using today can be found in that directory. All right, word. Let's do it. cd home Ubuntu IaC. All right, let's start by looking at the Vagrant file. Let's. So we have our Vagrant configured do config. DB server will be backend for our website. So it just matches over here. Okay, I'm gonna read over here. And actually, I like doing this full screen, just because you can see things a little bit better. Let's see if this works. And I want to move this over here. Okay. Okay. So we kind of recognize some of this from before. We're configuring our database server, and we're configuring the local network. So we're going to have DHCP, internal Docker network true, and we're giving it our IP there and our network mask. Boot the Docker container and run Ansible. So we're booting it up, our MySQL image. We're setting our root password to MySecretPassword, very secure. Web server will be used to host our website. Okay, so define web server. Do is CFG like do the configuration. Configure the local network for the server, so we kind of already saw that. Link the shared folder with the hypervisor to allow data pass through. Okay. Boot the Docker container and run Ansible. Command will keep the container active. We will connect using SSH, so override the defaults here. And provision this machine using Ansible. All right. In this Vagrant file, we can see that 2 machines will be provisioned. The first machine that will be provisioned is the database server. Working through the lines of code, we can see the machine will be added to a local network and receive that IP. We can also see that the provision directory will be mounted as a share. Lastly, using Docker as the provider, the MySQL image will be booted and the MySQL password will be configured to be my secret password. The second machine that will be provisioned is the web server. Similar to the DB server machine, it will be connected to the network and use Docker as its provider. However, there are some slight differences. Firstly, the web server will expose SSH. Since we are using Docker, we have to alter some of the default Vagrant configs to allow Vagrant to connect via SSH. This includes changing the username and the private key that will be used for the connection. Secondly, we can see that an Ansible playbook will be executed on the container by looking at the following line. I think I missed that. Oh, right there. Let's take a look and see what this Ansible playbook will do. Well, let's start by reviewing the web playbook.yaml file. Let's do it. So it will allow our host on localhost will allow all connections for the web app role. So a simple Ansible script indicates a web app role will be provisioned on the host. To better understand what the web app role will entail, we'll start by reviewing that. Which I guess I could do that myself. Oh, I don't have pasting? Do I really have to do it this way? Oh, I'm already there. Cat, provision. What? Okay, so I want a cat, provision, roles, web app, tasks, main. There we go. So that's what it's showing us. This shows us there will be two main portions to the Ansible provisioning. At this point, it's worth taking a look at as well at the default values in their file, which at that file. And the web app defaults main YAML. So is that different than where I'm at now? Web apps, okay, so web apps. Web app default main. Okay, so we have our default is database name of bucket list, database user of root, database password of my secret password, API key, super API key. We'll get back to these variables in a bit, but keep them in mind. All right, I'm gonna take the variables, they're in my mind. Let's take a look at the db setup.yaml file. Where's that at? DBS setup. Jeez, guys. If I could type, that'd be a good starting point. Okay, there it is. Using my sweet Linux skills right there. Okay, nope, I don't have sweet Linux skills. Why does it not autocorrect? Cat, provision, roles, web app, tasks, db setup. There we go. That's the file. So what's it doing? It's creating a temp folder for SQL scripts in temp SQL. We have a time delay to allow the SQL server to boot. Copy the database creation script with injected variables. Copy database SP script with injected variables. Create the database. MySQL U, our database user, which is that bucket thingy. Our database password, which is my secret password. And our database host, which would be the previous one. And create store procedures. Okay. From the script, we can see that 7 tasks will be performed. Reading through these tasks, we can see that a temporary folder will be created where SQL scripts will be pushed to and then executed against the database host. Let's take a look at how Ansible would inject those variables from before. Take a look at the create db task shell commands, which is kind of what I was just pointing out. We have 3 variables of db user, db password, and db host will be injected using either the values for the default file or the overwritten values if they exist. Ansible allows us to take a step further. Let's take a look at the actual created db SQL file. So what does that do? Drop database if exists. So it deletes the database if exists, so it starts over. Creates a database, uses that database. Drop if table user exists, so it's starting over, started from scratch. And we're going to create a new table, and we're going to have a few fields: a user ID field, a username, or a name field, a username field, a user password field, and then of course our primary key, so we can connect to other tables if needed. As we can see, these variables are even injected into the file templates that will be used. This allows us to control the variables that will be used from a single centralized location. When we change a user or password that will be used to connect to the database, we can change this in a single location, and it will propagate through all provisioning steps for the role. Beamy said over on YouTube, yo, how do you have the focus to do this? Energy drinks? Coffee? Well, no, definitely not at this time at night, bro. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I don't know, man. As far as focus, I think it's just my personality. I'll give you guys I don't know if you guys put much stock in this. We'll take a slight break from TryHackMe, a little rabbit hole here. So when I was going for my master's degree at a seminary, so the seminary taught theology type stuff, but also did master levels work in the field of like psychology. And so you actually had to do some like therapy and psychology type stuff to understand yourself. And so when I did it, this was my personality type according to that personality thing, INTJ, which I believe is like one of the rarest personality types. I think there's like 1% of people match this one, but this fits really well with what I do as both a pen tester, but also just like this. So if we read this, people with the INTJ personality type are intellectually curious individuals with a deep-seated thirst for knowledge. That, yes, I am. They tend to value creative ingenuity, straightforward rationality, and self-improvement. They consistently work toward enhancing intellectual abilities and are often driven by an intense desire to master any and every topic that piques their interest. Absolutely. So a part of like my focus and my just constant grinding is, guys, I love this. I love learning new things, stumbling through things. And here's actually one of the challenges that I've had my entire life. It probably sounds a little bit odd because I'm always on stream talking, but I'm very strongly an introvert. I'm freaking terrible at small talk. Like, I'm nervous every time I go to DEF CON because I'm in this like big group with a bunch of people, and often you're forced to make really awkward small talk. They say, hey, go and network with people. Like, bro, I don't really know. I get nervous talking to just people in general. So I've had to study books on how to like improve my social skills so I don't come off as incredibly awkward when you meet me in person. But part of this, if we look at even strengths and weaknesses, I'm guessing if you go through this, what are my weaknesses? Arrogant? I'm totally not arrogant. I'm the humblest person I know. Dismissive of emotions, overly critical, combative, socially clueless. Like, this doesn't mean you're destined for this, right? It's just being aware of some of the weaknesses of your personality type so that then you can combat that yourself by being aware of what your weaknesses are and then working on emotional intelligence and combating some of that stuff. What are the career paths? I don't even know. People with this are rarely satisfied with work that is too easy. Y'all, look at my job history. I changed jobs every 4 to 6 months when I got into IT. I kid you not, because I got too bored. They want a career that fires up their curiosity and leverages their intellect, allowing them to expand their prowess as they tackle meaningful challenges and problems. If a job description makes the average person think, wow, that sounds hard, then it might be a good fit for INTJ. Absolutely, like freaking pen testing, amazing job. Finding their place, even greater challenges. Yeah. So that all matches me. So to answer, that was a very roundabout way to answer your question, Beamy. Part of it is just my personality type, is I love this stuff. It is my both a secret power as well as a curse. There's strengths to it, but there really are a lot of weaknesses to it. One is just in personal relationships. I'm terrible, y'all, at like expressing emotions outside of like sarcasm and logic, which can hurt personal relationships a lot, which is also why I spend time in therapy. I need to make a video about this, but I do therapy right now through Talkspace, which is an incredible platform. But I go back and forth with my therapist every single day to work on some of those skills. So I kid you not, there are weaknesses to it, but I'm doing my best in my personal life to address those weaknesses. But the strength is this: I can do this for hours. If I didn't have to wake up early to bring my kids to school, y'all, I'd probably stay up till 2 or 3 in the morning doing just this. All right, back into this. Web setup. Lastly, let's take a look at the app setup YAML file. So what is this doing? Copying web application files. So we're doing a shell command, which once again, if we can inject into this, we could have RCE on a bunch of machines. Like, here's my thought process for an attack vector. You compromise the YAML file for Ansible or Vagrant, you have full RCE on a bunch of machines. Like, you could really do a pretty legit supply chain attack here. We're copying web app files. We're copying a Flask app script with injected variables. The file only has 2 tasks. The first copies the artifacts required for the web application, and the second copies the web application file as a template. A template copy is performed to ensure that the variables, such as the database connection string, are injected into the script as well. We will not, I think now, do a deep dive into the rest of the files that we use for provisioning. However, it is recommended that you take a look at these files to gain a better understanding on what exactly we are provisioning. All right. We'll kind of look through it as we stumble our way through things. Running the IaC pipeline. Now that we have understanding of our pipeline, it is time to start it. Let's start our pipeline and provision. Let's start our pipeline and the provision in using Vagrant up from the IaC directory. This pipeline will take a while to boot, but pay attention to what is happening. Note you may see red. All right. Close this. And I'm there, so Ansible, or is it, it's Vagrant up, right? We're doing Vagrant. Yeah, I don't know, getting things confused in my head. Vagrant up. Hopefully we see something. Okay. So bringing machine at DB server up with Docker provider, and bringing machine at web server up with Docker provider. You can see we're configuring our Docker networks. We kind of saw that in the files. We're creating a container named the IaC DB server. I'm trying to scroll up so we can kind of follow along with this. We have our MySQL image, and our container is created. So it's a Docker container. We're enabling the network interfaces. They fix a port collision. And we have a command that we're running here to keep SSH running. SSH daemon. Whoops. Come on. Don't do that to me. Starting our other container, we have our SSH username, auth method, private key. Okay, those are warnings. I don't know if that's an error or not. And here we have this create temp folder for SQL scripts. Those are all things that we saw in our Ansible file. Skipping plugin. So this looks like legit errors, but maybe those are just warnings as well. I don't know. We'll see if it works properly, but I don't think there's any way I can break this because I literally just did Ansible up or Vagrant up. Oh, is it done? Okay. Once our pipeline is provisioned, we can verify they're running using Docker PS. Yeah, okay, cool. They're running. Sweet, on port 22 and 33060. If this is running, we can start our web application using the following command. So now we're going to use Vagrant to start our web application. So Vagrant, Docker exec, which is just execute commands on the Docker server, on the web server container, which is... Oh, so we need to actually launch it. And then Python 3 app.py. So it's a Python web server. Whoops, maybe I should go here. Fingers crossed. Come on. All right, sweet. Beautiful. Once loaded, you can navigate to the web application using the target machine's browser. Come on, Firefox, I believe in you. Open up, bruh. Is it gonna open or no? Y'all saw me click it, right? Maybe I'm just impatient. Yep. There opens 2 of them. Oh, it opened 3 of them. Beautiful. 3 is better than none, right? Oh, I forgot that it doesn't copy. Copy link. Pull this up. Pull this up. Paste it in there. I'm dumb. I freaking hit Control C instead of Control V. Is this your first time using computers, Tyler? Yes, it is my first time using computers. Thanks for asking. Don't be such a jerk. There we go. All right, we have our bucket list app. Cool. Congratulations, you have executed your very first IaC pipeline. What is the flag displayed on the web app that is hosted after your IaC pipeline provisioning? You will need to create a profile and authenticate to view the flag. All right, let's sign up. My name, Tyler. My email, tyler@imleet.com. My password, password123. Same password I use for my bank account. Yes. Sign in. Tyler@imleet.com. Password 123. Sure, save it. Welcome home. IaC pipelines can be fun. We have a flag, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Here we go. All right, let's keep going. Can we finish this whole room? I think so. Let me stretch, take a stretch break. Oh, check out LinkedIn. Try not missing anything. Anyone else doing this with me? Anyone else working through this room as I work through it? Would love to hear from you if you are, what you think of it so far. So far, I'm liking it. I'm sure I'll get stuck at that challenge, though. Just joined the room you're doing. Okay, cool. You just joined this room. This is the on-prem. It's the newest room by TryHackMe. If you go to TryHackMe, it's a brand new room. All right, when using IaC, regardless of whether the deployment is on-prem or cloud-based, there are several things to consider for security. If you're looking for security best practices, cheat sheets such as these from OWASP are a good place to start, even frameworks such as NIST. Let's check this out. Managing secrets, that's key, right? Because that's something I notice in these scripts. Principle of least privilege, static analysis. All right, cool. However, in this room, we will focus on the practical security of IaC and common mistakes that are seen in the real world. This is not a comprehensive list of things to take into consideration, but it is a great start either protecting your IaC pipeline against real-world attacks or what to look for if you're attacking an IaC pipeline on a red team engagement. In total, there are 4 main elements to consider. Number 1, dependencies. The first element of IaC pipelines where security has to be considered is the dependencies. Similar to a software pipeline, our IaC pipeline will have dependencies. In IaC pipelines, the biggest dependencies are the base images that are pulled and used to build the infrastructure. If these dependencies have any security issues, these issues will be propagated through the pipeline. A common example would be a vulnerability in the OS version of the image. If the image itself is not updated, the deployed host would have this vulnerability. As such, it is important to ensure that adequate dependency management for resources used in the IaC pipeline. Anytime you are making use of third-party software or systems, it can introduce a dependency risk. For more information on dependency management and the potential vulnerabilities, have a look at the dependency management room. Defaults. A common security flaw in IaC pipelines is not altering defaults. When hosts and services are initially provisioned through an IaC pipeline, it is extremely common for these systems to be provisioned using default creds or connection strings. Ultimately, this is intended as these default creds are used by the tools in the pipeline to provision the host. The security misconfiguration is therefore not the default creds, but not removing or altering them as a final step in the deployment. An example of default creds is the credentials used by Vagrant to provision Windows hosts. Windows images provisioned by Vagrant often have a default built account of Vagrant that has a password of Vagrant. This is to allow the Vagrant script running in the hypervisor to connect to the host for file transfer and script execution. If at the end of the deployment this default user is not removed, a threat actor could use this to connect to and take full control of all hosts deployed through the IaC pipeline. Another issue with defaults is in the services deployed on the host. Let's say, for instance, that our IaC pipeline is used to deploy a CI/CD pipeline and would therefore install the Jenkins role on one of the hosts. It would be common for this role to be installed with the default creds of Jenkins, which would be Jenkins. We saw this when I did the CI/CD security network in my previous videos. In this case, we cannot really alter these credentials in the last stages of IaC deployment, but expect the software engineers that will use it to alter the creds. In some cases, this is not performed, which then leads to insecure infrastructure in the deployment. In other cases, even if the software would require the user to change their password at the first login event, as the software is never used, the default cred remains, allowing a threat actor to compromise the service and potentially its underlying infrastructure. As such, when building an IaC pipeline, it's important to make note of cases where defaults are used and where they may be a risk if not altered. The alteration of this default should then either be embedded as the final steps in the IaC pipeline or, where required, be performed manually once the deployment is complete. Insufficient hardening. The third element that commonly goes wrong in IaC pipelines is insufficient hardening. The primary goal of IaC is to rapidly deploy infrastructure. This often means that infrastructure that is being deployed has not yet been fully hardened. Hardening is not something that just happens automatically. It has to be planned for. As such, it's important to ensure that hardening steps are either embedded in the IaC pipeline or performed manually post-deployment. And I'll just point this out. It has to be planned for. At one job that I had, we had an entire team dedicated to hardening, where we would get gold images of different VMs and they would be fully tested, and that would be the gold image, and entire change control meetings over going through kind of the NIST standards for some of this. A common example of insufficient hardening is the services used by the IaC pipeline for deployment. For example, when Vagrant does provisioning of a Windows host, it does this via WinRM connection. It just so happens that WinRM is a service commonly used by threat actors for lateral movement, like evil WinRM. As such, it's important that if the service is no longer required for normal operation post-deployment, it should be disabled. When planning your IaC pipeline, it's important to include not only general hardening steps, but also those that would close down the services used by the pipeline itself. And finally, this is kind of what I noticed right away, remote code execution is a feature. The last element to consider is to remember that, ultimately, IaC pipelines are nothing more than remote code execution as a feature. In essence, the pipeline is effectively executing code that allows for new infrastructure to be created and integrated into existing networks. While this is incredibly powerful in the right hands, it could also be extremely detrimental. Taking this into consideration, it is important to apply security to the IaC pipeline to prevent unauthorized access. This can be done through two main security efforts, namely secret management and following the principle of least privilege. With secret management, we can share sensitive info such as final creds or keys as securely stored and cannot simply be read from the IaC source code to compromise the deployment. Following the principle of least privilege ensures that access to the IaC pipeline is only provided to users and services that require it. This includes implementing the same security controls that should be in any pipeline as taught in that build security room, which, hey, if you missed it, I did that entire room/network on my YouTube channel. Check out the videos. If a threat actor can compromise the pipeline, they would often have the ability to also compromise the deployed infrastructure. These are some of the key security considerations that are required to secure your IaC pipeline against real-world threats. Now that you know what to look for, let's pwn an IaC pipeline. All right, well, we are back, at least to the video. I'm using the magic of video editing. So if you were watching the video and it seemed like there was a weird jump to this part of the video, Here's why. In my original live stream, when I was working through the on-premise IaC room here on TryHackMe, I got completely stuck on the IaC challenge. I was totally overthinking it. And so I just want to remind you, when you're doing challenges, even real life pen testing, remember what I forgot, and that is the KISS principle. Keep it simple, stupid. Sometimes it's a very simple thing that you are overlooking that will help you get past whatever you're stuck at. I encountered that on the OSCP as well, where when you're looking at something for so long, you just need to take a break. So I was completely stuck on that stream. You can go back and watch it if you want to watch the video and see me like for an hour stumble my way around, but I was completely stuck, didn't know what to do, went to bed, woke up, looked at the challenge with fresh eyes, and like within minutes saw the very obvious thing that I was missing. So hey, if that happens to you, it also happens to me, so welcome to the club. But I have it figured out now, but it was a few days ago, so honestly I might stumble my way through this again because it's been a while since I did it, and it is pretty complex, the different pivoting that you have to do. But let's go ahead and read through this. The IaC challenge. Now that you have learned how on-prem IaC or infrastructure as code deployments work and the security concerns that arise when using IaC, it is time to put your knowledge to the test. Start the machine attached to the task, which I already did, by pressing the green Start Machine button and wait for the machine to boot. Now, note, this is an important note. In order for us to provide you with this challenge, a significant amount of software had to be kept at specific version levels. As such, the machine itself has some outdated software, which could be used with kernel exploits to bypass the challenge itself. Now, you will discover this on older CTFs in general. Like if you do some hack-the-box retired machines, you could totally bypass the intended route by doing a kernel exploit, but you're not learning anything, right? So if you choose to do this route, either on this machine or another machine, of kernel exploitation to bypass the challenge and cover the flags, it will only affect your own learning opportunity. Our suggestion: try to solve the challenge by using what you have learned in this room about on-prem IaC. Once the machine is booted, you can use SSH with the credits below to connect to the machine. Why is this not going away? Go away. Thank you. So let's go ahead and get connected to the machine. We'll pull up our terminal and actually need to get on the VPN first. So do sudo openvpn tenebrae. Here we go. I think it's this one. All right. Yep, that worked. So we'll just name that tab VPN, and we'll make another tab, and we'll name this one SSH, and we will SSH as entry at 10.10.197.1141, and then yes, and then entry. And then right away it drops us in a basic like bin sh shell, but if you want a more good looking shell with a little more power to it, we can just type bash and get a bash shell. And then we have all of our color and everything looks a little bit prettier. But here we go. Looking over at YouTube, the null packet said, Tyler, I applaud you. I have no idea how you find the time to put out so many good videos. Get search, stream, comment on Discord, work a full-time job, and you have I don't know how I do it either, and you have a family. That's awesome. Thank you for the kind words. It is, I mean, it is a lot, but I really do enjoy it. I love giving back and helping the community and hopefully being an encouragement to people. That is my goal. Make sure I'm not missing anything on LinkedIn real quick, and then we'll keep moving. All right, no, we're good. All right, let's go. We are on the server, and let's look over what we need to do. Once authenticated, you will find an IaC pipeline scripts. Work through these files to identify vulnerabilities and attack the machines deployed by the IaC pipeline to ultimately gain full control of the pipeline. You can also use this SSH connection to catch shells as required. You will have to leverage these files together with what you learned in Task 5 to be able to compromise the pipeline. To assist you on this journey, you can make use of the hints provided below. However, since the main goal is attacking an IaC pipeline, you are provided with the following. So Nmap has been installed on this host, allowing us to scan the port range of the Docker network if required. We can use SSH to proxy out traffic of the web application or any other port as required. What's my phone telling me? My phone's telling me to stream on Twitch. Well, phone, I'm already streaming on Twitch. And you can use SCP command of SSH to transfer out the IaC configuration files. So our first goal, our first objective is flag 1. So if we look at the hint, it says review the source code of the web app. It is common for devs to add functions to allow them to perform certain checks. So we know it has something to do with the web application, and we also know we have some infrastructure as code. So if we LSLA, we can see our IaC folder. So we'll go over to that. LSLA. And real quick, let me answer a question from Zach over on YouTube. He said, Tyler, how long did it take you to finish the TCM Academy ethical hacking course? You know, Zach, to be honest, I don't remember. It was quite a while ago when I did that. So I really don't remember, Zach. I apologize. Cyber Diaries have been trying to get into the Discord. I knew of you before you were on Dr. Auger, but I didn't know about the Discord. Been looking for the Discord since every link has expired. Well, hey, it's your lucky day. I'll give you a Discord link. Hold up. Let me get Discord pulled up and I'll generate a new invite link and I'll drop it. Give me just a moment. Oh, it's updating. Come on, Discord. We're on stream. We don't have time for this silliness. All right, it's just about pulled up. And I'll drop it for you, Cyber Diary. We'll go right click, invite, and I'll drop this on all the platforms. So if anyone else wants to join the Discord, it's your lucky day. Fresh invite link. All right, there we go. Fresh invite link on all 3 platforms. Come join the Discord if you're not already there. Back to this, we have our Vagrant file. Now, if you remember, our Vagrant file kind of specifies some of the endpoints that might be active. So I did this in the first stream as well pretty quickly. But in our Vagrant file, we can kind of walk through this. So we're deploying, as you can see, 2 VMs. We have here a database server. That's the back end for our website. So we know it's running like MySQL. And we have the IP right there for it. And then we have this web server. And we have the IP for our web server. But if you know this, if you know networking, we can't actually hit this IP, at least from my Kali VM right here. And I'll show you, like if we try to hit it, nothing's gonna connect because there's nothing connecting us to this. So if we do this, it's not gonna work. On the other hand, if from here, if we do curl HTTP, that we're able to hit the website. So the first thing we need to do is set up some pivoting. Now, there's different ways you can do pivoting. You can use SSH like the room suggests, but I want to show you a way to pivot using Legolo. I'm probably saying that wrong, but this is one of the best pivoting tools I've discovered. And I'll walk you through the full process of setting up pivoting in this way. It'll be really helpful on things like the OSCP, exams like the PMBT, or just working through networks like the Red Team Capstone or the Hack the Box Pro networks. You need pivoting on all of those, or even like networks on TryHackMe, like the Wreath network. I know you need pivoting as well. Legolo NG is an incredible tool, and I'll walk you through step by step how to get this installed and how to get it configured. The first thing we need to do is go ahead and look at the releases. We need 2 type of things. Let me go ahead and make a new directory on my main folder here. We'll go terminal, cd TryHackMe. I forgot, y'all. When I was like getting so mad in the first stream, I just made a directory called I Hate My Life. That was my directory for this machine. Very, very positive. But we'll just start over. All right. We'll remove I Hate My Life and we'll make a directory called on-prem IaC. All right, we have our directory there. That cracks me up. And now we'll look at our assets here. We need a couple of different things. Now we're running Kali and on AMD 64, so we need an agent and we need a proxy. This will make sense when you see it in action, but let's go ahead and click that to download it. And then we also need a proxy, so let's show all 9 assets. So we have our agent downloaded. We also need the proxy AMD 64, so we will get that downloaded. And now we'll go ahead and copy from home, Tyler downloads, Legolo. We'll just do that right there. Oh, and then we downloaded some extra ones. So let's go ahead and remove this one. Agent. Right. And remove that. Proxy. Okay, that didn't work. All right, so we have those 2. Now we have to unzip them. We can use that with tar. So if we do tar xf, and we can do a wildcard to specify, hey, we want you to unzip both of these, and we'll hit enter. Okay, never mind, don't do that. That apparently doesn't work. We'll do it one at a time. So we have the agent. Now we'll do the proxy. Okay, there we go. So we have the agent and the proxy, and we can honestly remove this now All right, we just have the agent and the proxy now. So let's go ahead and look at what we have to do. If we go over to Legolo, I think it's Legolo. I don't know if it says how to pronounce it. I'm just going to call it Legolo. We're going to go with that. It walks you through pretty good on how to set this up. I'm going to actually throw this to my side screen, and we'll zoom in so you can see it, and we'll throw my terminal to my other side screen, and we can go through this step by step together. So Linux, when using Linux, you need to create a ton interface on the proxy server. So let's go ahead and do that. We'll copy this first command, paste into our terminal, and then our username is of course going to be our username on our machine. So mine's going to be Tyler. Put your sudo password. All right, done. And now just copy this command. Done. All right, running it on the proxy server. The proxy server is kind of like our command and control server. In this instance of setting up pivoting, it's going to be our Kali VM right here. And for a CTF type thing, we don't need to actually create a cert. We can do the self-cert option right here just to make it easy. So we will do proxy and self-cert. There we go. So we have that launched. Now, if we go over to our victim machine, or our agent right here, let's go to temp where I know I can write, and let's open up a new terminal, and we'll just call this our web server, and all right, we'll do Python 3, set up a simple web server with Python, and then go back over to here, we'll use wget to download from our Kali machine of 10.13.46.224, and we want the agent. Takes just a little bit to download because it's a bigger file than most of the things you're transferring back and forth, so this is a good time to drink water. All right, now we have our agent installed, and we'll go ahead and change mod plus X just to make it executable on our agent. Okay, there we go. Now we can just follow these steps. So we'll do agent dash connect. Now the attacker C2 server is actually the IP of our Kali VM, so we'll do 10.13.46.224 like that. And then 11.601 is the default port because we didn't change it. That's what it's going to be. But there is one thing we have to do because we did our self-signed cert. We have to append ignore cert onto the end here. So do ignore cert. All right, connection established. So far, so good. And if we go over to here, we can see, hey, we have an entry right there. Now we can do session. And then we're going to select our only option, which is entry. I'm going to hit enter on my keyboard. And now we're connected to that session. And now we need to see our IP information of our agent that we just connected to. So do ifconfig. And here are all the network interfaces that we have access to. Now, if you remember, our web server is living on this network interface right here. This network interface is what can reach out to it. So we want to go ahead and copy that, and we're going to add a route. So we'll go back to this. We'll close down our web server because we're done there. And we'll do sudo IP route add, change this to a 0, and then dev legolo, literally just copying the commands that we see here, but changing our IP route so we add the right one. All right, now we can start the tunnel on the proxy. So over here, last step, we'll hit start. And now we should be good to go. I'm just going to rename these tabs Legolo C2. And we'll call this Legolo agent. And we'll call this terminal. And let's go ahead and get another SSH connection because we'll probably need it. So we'll do SSH entry at whatever IP is right here. Entry. Bash. And if we cat our Vagrant file, make this big screen. So we know this is our web server. And because we set up our Legolo pivoting, now we should actually be able to hit this. Look at that. So now we're able to pivot into the internal environment using Legolo properly, and we can actually hit this now. So, oh, Kevin said Ligolo. Just Google the pronunciation. Awesome. Randy over on YouTube said, I want to ask what's your opinion on Hack the Box Academy? Hack the Box Academy is an incredible platform, well worth the money, especially the pen tester path and the bug bounty path. I also believe they just released today an advanced web app pen testing path. Check it out. Okay, here's our app. Let's go ahead and open up Cato so we can proxy some of this. So why don't you just name this Cato. Pull it over here. Cato. Peter said, hey, what up, Peter, by the way? Is this pivoting method useful in real-world pen tests as well, or just CTFs and OSCP? No, it's useful in real-world pen tests. Depending on the internal pen test that you're in, you may have to pivot into different subnets depending on what you're doing. So yes, it is useful in the real world. We'll do that. Intercept. Whoops, I thought I selected my project. All right. Pull this out. Throw it to the side here. And we will go ahead. We can honestly close some of these out. We'll turn on Foxy Proxy for Cato. And let's just see if it's coming through. If we go over to Intercept, which we can already see it is. Let's go like this. Yep, so it's getting our GET request. We're going through here. Now here's the crazy thing. Yo, what up, Default Sec? We are finishing the on-prem IaC challenge room that I got stuck on in the last stream. And we got a lot more people watching. What are we at to now? 20, 40, almost 60 people across the different platforms. Yeah, dude, Overgrown Carrot, I saw that. Here, let me turn on Twitch chat so y'all can see the Twitch chat. I don't know why that's always turned off. Overgrown Carrot said, finally did my first box on Pwn Labs. I saw your post on LinkedIn. What did you think of it? They had some issues with their VPN recently, but they just announced they have fully resolved all the issues with the VPN. So honestly, depending on what time it is when I finish this, I might jump over to Pwn Labs. I see why I turned off Twitch chat. It kind of covers up the Cato stuff. I'm going to turn Twitch chat back off. Sorry, y'all on Twitch. I'll just have to look at it on my side screen, and I'll still respond to you. But anyways, here's the thing, guys. I was doing like some elite hacking, trying to figure out SQL injection or MySQL databases. Like I was way overthinking this. So I just wanted to remind you, for those of you doing an exam, especially something like the OSCP, the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid. I failed to keep it simple in my last stream, which led to me rage quitting and making a directory called I Hate My Life and staying up way too late and being tired the next day. All right, don't be like me. Keep it simple. Look at it with fresh eyes. You guys are gonna laugh how easy this was. This, this is a button right here. That's key. I just thought that was like a label. That's a button. And let me show you what this button does. It's literally sending a command, y'all. That's how easy it is. It's sending a command. Let's make this full screen. We can say like, who am I? Preview. We're root. Can you guys believe it's that easy to get command injection? At least on the underlying Docker container that we need to pivot into. Literally that easy. I could not believe it when I discovered it. And we can do like which netcat. And we have netcat on here. So we should be able to use netcat to very easily pivot. Or not pivot, but get a shell. So let's go to our SSH right here. And we'll do netcat MVLP 1337 because that's what real hackers do. And we'll go over to Cato. And now we can just do something like bin netcat, whatever the IP of our machine is, which I don't remember. Oh, and I guess we could turn off Cato too, the intercept. Something like that. We might have to do bin sh. We'll see if bin bash works. I have my listener going, right? All right, cool. Okay, I can't do it, but look, we are on this Docker container, lsla, and then we have our first flag right there. So we will cat flag1 of 4.txt, and there we go. Dev py passes and checks can be dangerous. Let's go ahead and grab our flag. We'll jump back over to our TryHackMe room, and we'll drop the flag in there. We can actually make this full screen now. So there we go. We have our first flag. I kid you not, it really only took me a few minutes to do this. Let me go ahead and look at the hint for flag 2, and we'll see what we're supposed to do. It says when a Vagrant deployment is performed, by default, Vagrant will create a local copy of the provisioning directory under the Vagrant folder. Have a look at that and see if some sensitive information may have been left there. Well, yeah, let's do it. So in our Vagrant file right here, we have some information. And I don't even remember off the top of my head where all these flags are mixed together in my head. So we'll kind of stumble through this and figure it out. If we cat our Vagrant file, this is the same as our other file, right? We have our web server and we have our MySQL root password. Which, by the way, if you enumerate MySQL, it's a rabbit hole. That's what I did in the first stream. Like, I did some cool stuff, y'all. Even though it didn't work. In the first stream when I was stuck, I did some enumerating MySQL, but then I also discovered like this is a Flask app written in Python, and we have the API key for the Flask app, so technically we can sign our own sessions. So if there was another admin, I actually downloaded a tool to sign my own Flask sessions. It was cool. It didn't work. It was a rabbit hole, but that's what I mean. I was totally overthinking the challenge. Don't be like me. But let's LSLA again. And so keys sounds interesting. So we have some keys here, right? We actually have a private key that's available to us. And remember, we have, if we go to our, let's see, cat id rsa.pub, we know that we have Ubuntu is probably going to be the username. And this is probably gives us the ability to pivot into the database server, I think. I don't actually remember if it works, but let me just check. So if we go back to our Vagrant file, not CD. That's not how you read files, Tyler. Good job. Good job for trying. You get an award for that. But here we go. Here is our database server. And it should use our private key by default. So let's do SSH Ubuntu at our database server. That didn't work. So instead, let's go to keys and let's grab that key. And we'll just save it ourselves. So we'll grab our key. Drop the key in there, change mod. I think it's 400 or 600. And now let's try to SSH as Ubuntu at whatever the heck that machine is. And because I set up Legolo, I should be able to hit it, not the web server. Let's see if we can hit this one. Do-I to specify our key. Also, it's asking for a password. What's overgrown carrot saying? Vagrant, if they set up as an automated install, puts the password also as Vagrant. I think that's only on Windows, right? That's not how you do it on this machine. For some reason, I was thinking it's only Windows that it sets the default as Vagrant. Does it do it for SSH as well? Look, guys, I'm already stuck, and I've already completed this challenge. I'm trying to remember exactly how we do this. Let me go back to this guy. Can I... Let's in provision. So I don't think there's anything that's going to be interesting here. Yeah, this is our app stuff. I think it's those keys. I might just have to play around with them a little bit. We could check here too. No, it's not that. Is there anything else here? Rabbit hole. pretty sure this is the way you do it. Let's try it this way. Okay. Maybe it's just a root. That's what I'm doing wrong. I think it's just a root account. There we go. Oh, no. What the frick? Which one's the database server? There it is. The first one I did was a database server. Good job, Tyler. There we go. Flag 2 of 4.txt. Boom. So I think it's similar to what Overgrown Carrot was talking about, except for instead of being Vagrant, it's like the default SSH key, private key, that's being used. I'm looking at messages in YouTube. Do you think having a LinkedIn profile with first name less initial thought profile pic, is that okay or weird? I think it's fine. All up to the person's personal preference. Oh, cool. 04S is also checking out Pwn Labs. Awesome. Crazy Horse said, hey, I just asked this in the HackSmart Discord as well. Have you ever ran into, after you change mod 600 SSH key? I always do 400. It still works, says YOLO. It does not save the permissions? No, I've never had that happen, to be honest. That's odd. Make sure I'm not missing anything on LinkedIn real quick. Don't think I am missing any comments. If you're on LinkedIn and you left a comment, I didn't see it, just post it again because LinkedIn's weird. All right, flag 3 of 4. Oftentimes, we need to transfer large amounts of data when deploying through an IaC pipeline. If we are a bit lazy, we might not restrict our shares or revoke them once we are done. Have a look at the provisioning shares. All right, let me show you the Tyler Ramsbey cheating way of doing this. So I kid you not, when I was first working through this, this is how I found this flag. It's not the proper way to do it. I'll show you the proper way too, but this is what I did. I did find here, name, flag. You guys see how much of a hacker I am? That's how I figured out the shared folder. I just did a find command for it. But when it provisions, it has a shared folder that it will provision in temp called data copy if it's not removed. So let's go there. And we have our flag 3 of 4. IaC shares should be restricted, so go ahead and grab that. And now we have our final flag, and the hint is this. To perform provisioning in an IaC pipeline, you need quite a bit of privileges. Often it's hard to determine exactly what privileges are needed, resulting in permissions being too permissive. Now here's what's unique about this. And I caught onto this right away, but kind of fell into a rabbit hole on how I was attempting to do it, but it didn't take me too long in the rabbit hole this time. But this is shared with the host machine is what it seems like, right? So we can check out some things here. Bash history we can't check. We could check MySQL history if there's anything in it. Do that. So in our MySQL history, we're catting some authorized keys, which should be a hint, honestly. But we have that, and we can go through some of these other things, but there's nothing that's too interesting to us. We have our IaC, we have our test directory, but anytime you see SSH, you should think, can I add my own keys to SSH? So let's do that. CD SSH. Common thing you'll see on CTFs as well. So we have authorized keys and known hosts. Now, if you know how SSH works, the authorized keys folder will contain the public keys of the corresponding private key that can SSH into this. So we have here Tinus and Amoeba Man. They are the same people. Well, we see their keys here as authorized keys. So then we think, okay, maybe, what if we add our public key to the authorized key and then SSH into the machine? Now, if we go back to this machine right here, we can exit out of some of this stuff. All right, back on here. If we try to do like sudo L and do entry, we can't run sudo on TryHackMe. But if we go back to home, we have two users. We have our entry user, but our entry user is not the one being used for provisioning. The Ubuntu user is the one being used for provisioning. And if we look at the hint, it says to perform provisioning, you need quite a bit of privileges. Often it's hard to determine exactly what you needed, resulting in the permissions being too permissive. So if we can access the Ubuntu account, we might be able to abuse the reality that he or she or Ubuntu, whatever it is, has too many permissions. And it seems that, I don't think we can actually go into this. Oh, we can. So we can, but we can't modify it. But look at this. You guys see what we see here? And if we go back over to this. Oh, let me go back. Same file directory because it's being shared right now between our host machine and this Docker container that we're on right now. So once again, SSH, LSLA. Let's see if we can do what I was talking about. We'll open another terminal 2. And if we cat home Tyler SSH. Oh, do I not have SSH keys? Oh, I have this weird one right here. I mean, honestly, I guess that will probably work. Should work anyways. We'll copy that. And now we will echo that. And double arrow, so it depends on the end, so you don't overwrite everybody else's keys. I'm looking at you, Red Team Capstone people. I remember when I did the Red Team Capstone, everyone kept overwriting my freaking SSH key. Y'all about make me lose my mind, right? Isn't that DMX or something? That's how I felt. Authorized keys. All right, so we see my key right there. Now, if we try SSH as Ubuntu at our host IP, boom. And now if we do sudo /l, we can do everything. So now we can just do sudo su. If I could type, we are root. And if we go to the root directory, there is the final flag. But here's the thing, y'all. I don't want you to watch my video and just complete the room by copy and pasting the flags out of my video. Totally fine with you watching my video, but I want you to work through the room yourself. So on stream and in this recording, I'm not going to give you the final flag. So if you want flag 4 of 4.txt, I showed you the full process on how you can get flag 4 of 4.txt, but I'm not going to print flag 4 to the screen. Do it yourself so you can learn, and then you can get that final flag yourself. But once you get it, you will drop it in there. So here's the conclusion. In this room, we learned about on-prem IaC. Let's have a recap. There are still reasons today why IaC or infrastructure as code could be performed on-prem instead of in the cloud. Vagrant and Ansible are two sets of software that can be used for IaC pipelines. With IaC pipelines, we have even larger security concerns as the IaC pipeline itself is remote code execution that a threat actor could leverage to create new machines. And finally, while IaC pipelines provide automation for the deployment of infrastructure, we are still responsible for manually or through the use of automation, harden the deployed infrastructure. Now that we have learned on-prem IaC, it's time to take a look at cloud-based IaC. I think this room just came out, didn't it? I'm not going to do it in this stream, but I think this is a brand new room. And they're clearly working on like a DevSecOps pathway. Yeah, let's just glance this over. I'm curious. And then we have a challenge one. Okay, on another stream, we'll go through that one, but here we go. And that completes this IaC challenge room. So for those of you watching this video on YouTube, this is the end of the on-prem IaC walkthrough. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned a lot. And I will see you in the next one.